Hey guys, so Alchemy got hit a little bit with the patch. Slave drivers, of course, were changed to be 10 strength and dealing damage to your own units to damage enemy units, which was a bit of a weird change. Kind of makes them like Cyclops, but they're no longer 1 strength, nor do they create bronzes from the opponent's deck. And that means, Alchemy was left without one of its important cards. And along with Create being nerfed, things like Black Blood and the runestones being significantly weaker, people thought Alchemy would probably take a bit of a hit, myself included. But it turns out Alchemy is still pretty damn, strong across the board. Potentially, it's even stronger and has a stronger place in the meta. We'll see if that's the case. But I definitely think it has huge potential this patch, and it's already becoming one of the most popular decks that people are playing. So I thought I'd just go over the changes to the deck that most people are going to be running, what you should replace those other important cards with now that they're a lot weaker, and yeah, we can do some gameplay as well, see what the deck is like, how it's performing, and whether it can hold up against all these Sabbath decks I'm seeing around, the Swims version or whatever. I think it definitely can. So, yeah, let's jump right into it. So we still have Calviet, of course, the man himself, really strong leader. We're going to go with Stefan in this version, for some consistency, to get Cahir, it can be really nice, or just any of your golds, even a Witcher, or the Guardian, as we'll see is a really nice card as well that you can be pulling with him. But yeah, he's just allowing the deck a bit of consistency. Doesn't means you don't get completely overrun by bronze spells in round 1 or 2, round 2 I guess. And then Vilgefortz is going to be a big boy, very good card. You can always burn a small unit, maybe Cahir at the end of the game, maybe a Viper Witcher in round 1. Just a really strong card, especially when you have knowledge of your draws with the Calviet. You can play around him very well. Then we have Vesemir. He is going to be still pulling, alchemy cards out of your deck. We do have some of those. Most likely Mandrake is going to be the pull, or Expired Ale a lot of the time. But you can always take an Ointment or whatever, should you have any of those left in your deck. So yeah, Vesemir is still very strong. And then Cahir, of course, one of the strongest golds in Nilfgaard, if your leader is both in the graveyard and not mandraked by the opponent. Um, in fact, if you get him to 11 strength, it's going to be one of the strongest finishers in the game, beating a lot of stuff. So that's really good. Not running Triss, I think she drops in power a tiny bit just because you have things like Swallow Potion and potentially Recon and other things like that can just like here we're going to be running 4 spells, which means the Triss can brick a lot easier or find an option that you don't want, especially if the opponent's also running spells. So Triss becomes a little bit worse, but mostly the reason is just the other golds are so strong. Like, there's no real reason to put Triss in here. You could consider it, and maybe even Dandelion Poet or something. I guess Stefan is, or maybe Cahir is the most easily droppable card, but I think that gold setup is really good at the moment. So we got Spy, we got Cantarella, we've still got Asaya, we've got Roach, that infamous combo, and you can shuffle back opponent's cards, you can shuffle back your own ointments to do funky things in round 3. Really, really strong. Then we have Guardian, which is quite a neat little card. It's just going to give us a really good opening play. Now that we don't have slave drivers, we instead have Stefan and we have the Guardian as our beginning plays, just to make sure we have something to do before we drop Ales and drop Viper Witches and all that. And it also really effectively counters dry pass because the opponent dry passes, you can play the Guardian, and then they're going to brick like a lot more than they normally would, which will allow you to push them or make just life awkward for them in general. So really nice inclusion, I think, and can replace whatever you were running before, Wakim or the Runestone or whatever. So yeah, it's really good. We've got Mandrake, of course, for the carryover, really important card. Helps against Sabbath if you ever run into that. Expired Ale is just like the solid silver alchemy card that you kind of need in there now that Black Blood and Runestone are gone. Sometimes it's going to be 6 points, sometimes it's going to be 12, and when you're happy, it's going to be like 14 or 18 points. So it's not a bad one, but not quite as good as the old Black Blood or anything like that. Sorry. But yeah, still worth including in the deck, and does give you a little bit of extra damage on your witches, which is important. So our witches are going to be dealing 10 in this version. We have 8 bronze whatever alchemy cards and two silver alchemy cards. So they'll be dealing 10 damage, which is really nice for removing a lot of stuff. You know, great swords, axemen potentially. You know, Wild Hunt Riders from Eridan, and any other engine below 10. So, you know, Dragoons, Trebuchets, whatever. Like, all of the stuff, you can get rid of it with Witches. Even spy engines can be dealt with pretty well. So, still very powerful. We then have Novice, which, you know, I mean, in this version, you can actually ointment it a lot more because you have more alchemy spells compared to what you'd normally run, I guess, which would be one swallow. I mean, it depends on the version, but definitely Vico can become an ointment target a lot of the time, as well as the Witcher. And probably the hardest thing with this deck is, you know, still avoiding bricked ointments. That was a difficulty with the original, you know, alchemy, but without Slave Driver, it can be even harder now. So just be careful of that. But you know, you have tools around it. You have the Vilgeforts. You have just, you know, Recon can find you another Witcher in a rounds, things like this that help out a bit. So yeah, we've got Vicos. We've got Swallow for a bit of just filler alchemy card, like 10 points. It's not terrible, whatever. You don't really want them round 3, right? But if you play them earlier on, that's okay. Ales, of course, really good. Ointments we need, and Recon just for a bit of thinning. And we don't really want to run another unit. These units are all good, so as long as you can find a Witcher or a Vicar with that, very happy. So yeah, that's the kind of updated list. A little bit different, and it plays kind of differently to old Alchemy. Not hugely, but definitely some of the matchups are different, and what you're going to be facing. There's not as many Henselts, for example. There's a lot more, like, at the moment, crazy decks and whatnot, which maybe aren't refined, but I think Alchemy will be here to stay, probably this patch. So, you know, gear up, either learn to play against it, or, you know, learn to play it yourself, or both. And yeah, we'll jump into some gameplay now and see how the deck works. Alright, looks like we're going up against the Arrakis Queen. Should be interesting. So, as always with the mulligans, we gotta blacklist some cards. So first we're going to be running to get rid of Ales, pretty much always, and then a lot of the time Swallow Potions, and finally Roach if you do draw that. If not, then maybe you get rid of an Ointment. If you have like 2 or 3 in hand, maybe you get rid of you know, a silver card like Mandrake if you want to Vesemir it out, things like that. I mean, there's pretty niche, you know, ways to do the mulligan with Alchemy. But here, pretty straightforward hand. We are against Consumes, which is going to be interesting to say the least. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. Either we can go for Mandraking Necker at the very start and potentially denying them that way, or we can wait till later on and use Mandrake for big points and maybe even reuse Mandrake by shuffling it back using a Sire. And I think maybe that's what I'm going to go for here, just because it will be a bit more of an interesting game, I suppose, than just throwing out Mandrake and forfeiting. But yeah, I think here we're gonna maybe just start with Guardian because it's like a pretty reasonable play. We want to put that brick on top of his deck, and we want to get it out of the hand. And you know, if we Stefan immediately, our Calviat will potentially pull that Stefan target, which we might not want if we're taking Vesemir to reuse Mandrake later on in the game. So maybe, you know, Calviat first and then Stefan later on in a round. He is in fact going to go with the Guardian, summoning circled, which, you know, whatever, that's kind of annoying, but at least now we know we can guaranteed pull this Lesser Guardian with Caveat, and I'm going to go and do that just to get it off the top of the deck and give us that Stefan in a minute, along with those Ales that we might be able to thin out with Vico. So yeah, looking pretty okay. Hopefully he doesn't have any Neckers, that's kind of the dream. Won't happen too often against Consume though, although here, I mean, there's potential for that. And yeah, we'll have to see what happens here. So this next round, I mean, we're going to play it out, no reason not to. Since he didn't play any Neckers round 1, and we have potentially bricked him a little bit there with the Guardian, it might actually be worth just Mandraking the Necker immediately in this situation, and then going for the second Mandrake, you know, later on, should we need that. And here we'll just, you know, we'll take that Vesemir, grab him, put him on top. That'll be really nice for using Mandrake, I think. Either for points to, you know, really push him cards down, or to try to deny Neckers. So the question, yeah, well, the question we have to ask is, okay, do we do this? Are we going to Mandrake it? He did already use Summoning Circles, so That's one less way for him to find Nekker, and if we assume that he didn't draw any, it might be worth doing. I'm going to go for it here because we have that fallback of, shuffling the Mandrake so that we can replay it. That might be good enough to win the game, especially if, we won round one, so we're in control of this round. We can play a lot of points and then see where to go from there. And it may be the case he doesn't even have Nekkers since telegraphed he might not with the draw from earlier. And that monster nest looks like that is exactly what's going on. So we'll just remove that immediately with the Witcher. And yeah, just a game of Consume where they haven't drawn any Nekkers, so not the most interesting situation. But Alchemy can thrive against Consume, and really highlighting that sort of Asaya and putting Mandrake back. I mean, maybe that's relevant, but okay, that will be our win. First game, looking good, looking good. We're looking good with this Alchemy deck. Stay tuned for the next one. Alright, so we're into the next game. We're going to be against the Dagon, the Sir Dagon. You might assume this is the swim deck that's going around at the moment. I'd probably say that will be what this is. Does that make sense? Yes. So once again with the mulligans, Ale first. We could think about Swallow. We might even want to get rid of Ale. But I think Swallow is safe to get rid of, and then Roach. Should be good. So here we don't really have an opening play, which kind of sucks. We could go with the Vesemir and then Mandrake or Roach. That might be the best option. But we are, under the threat of Imlerith Sabbath a tiny bit if we use the Mandrake. What else can we go for? We could go for Calviat, look for Swallow Potion. That might be the safest route to go for here. Or even Guardian, that's a very good one to get with the leader as well. So what are we looking at with matchups with this deck? So Great Swords, you might think is a really good one. It can be good. It really depends sort of how well you draw, whether you have all of your witches in hand or not, and whether they draw well as well, whether they have a lot of bricks in hand or not too many and things like that. So I think Alchemy is actually more like 55-45, something like that. It's not too favored for the Alchemy player, if even at all. So that's worth keeping in mind. Here we're probably just going to throw out Vesemir, get that Mandrake, and I think buff our leader up. Maybe buff up Roach since the side can, guaranteed shuffle it back. Maybe we just do neither of them and play a Vico with the Recon. I think that's actually probably safer. Get some thinning done with the Ale coming out. Not bad at all. Give us Ales in the future. So yeah, Great Swords, maybe not as favoured as you'd think. The Spies matchup, we should be pretty favoured, and we have a lot of tools to do with their engines. And at the same time, we can also, use Mandrake and things to really shut down their big power plays. So that one's a good one. I haven't seen too many Spies though. It might be because a lot of decks are quite strong against it that are being played at the moment. Here we're just going to throw out a Witcher, deal with the Arc Spore, looking good. What other matchups then? So Hensa is not so popular. I imagine you have a decent matchup, but any deck that runs Weather is going to be pretty hard for Alchemy to deal with. And the same deal again, we'll remove that Arc Spore once again, deny the value over time that he'll want to be getting, and it hits the 1, which is really good for us. So yeah, there's a couple of things to think about there in those matchups. Consume is difficult for sure, unless you get quite fortunate, or you can make things happen with the Vesemir and the Mandrake and all that good stuff. And here we might even want to Mandrake Dow. I think it's actually probably worth doing just to shut down that tool for him to be able to get points, with the Griffins and whatnot. We really want to get like a large lead so that we can use sort of Ale, Swallow, and then whatever. Or we just take the round and can do things next round, which will be okay. Kind of looking a little bit worrying with the draws though, because we're going to be drawing sort of all these dodgy cards, right, with Ales and things, but we'll make it work. And Cantarella is potentially a good pickup. So here we're going to get rid of Ale, and just throw out the Cantarella immediately. No real reason not to. We'll take Anointment. Not an issue. So this round we're probably just going to try to get rid of some of these weaker bronzes, maybe get some weather from him. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to, use Mandrake for damage rather than carryover, so, and we don't have the Kahir in hand, so our hand's not looking amazing, but we'll see what happens. Maybe this will be okay. So first off, just rezzing a Witcher, dealing some damage to Cantarella. Mandrake could be painful, but, if he does use it for that, Maybe he's not using it for carryover in another way, so might not be too bad. So yeah, any matchup where they have a weather, like a lot of weather, things like Axemen are pretty difficult to deal with as this Alchemy deck. You don't have any way to create weather clear anymore, right, as you used to with things like Black Blood and Runestone. So you're in trouble in those matchups, but anything else, any kind of lesser unoptimized deck, you're just going to completely crush with Alchemy because you just have all the points, you know what I mean? Um, Deathwish is actually another one which is pretty hard for Alchemy because they have weather, they have this long round value that's hard for you to deal with. You can kill the Arc Spores, of course, but it's not like the huge value that you're kind of wanting when you play a Witcher, so not exactly the best thing. Here we can just go with the Vico, and probably take the Swallow, just get rid of that. I don't think we need to kill Arc Spores, we probably won't play the round long enough for that to be worth doing. Also, we want Expired Ale to hit for max value, which will be harder if we, are killing his units off. And another Fog comes out. So at this point, our win condition is potentially just trying to get as good a possible hand for round 3 as possible, maybe find the Kahir, something like that would be good. Or hope that he has the brick that we gave him from the Guardian at some point, and yeah, just put him into a bad situation as a result of that. But here, Ale sounds like a plan. Really waiting for, 1/6 on each row to drop the expired Ale, which may happen soon or not. We will see. And that is his little golem. We can drop it now. It will deny some Griffin value if he's planning on playing those, so that's nice. Although, the way things are going here, we're going to be not getting our card back just because he has a lot of long round value that we can't really deal with, especially when we don't have big cards like Kahir, available to us. But as long as we play down to a short round 3, we'll have a chance. We just need to kind of, be fortunate in what cards we draw. So here, Swallow Potion again, get that out the way. But yeah, I think Alchemy is looking pretty good at the moment. Can definitely deal with a lot of the crazy decks that people are playing at the moment. Yeah, as said, interestingly, this this creation that he's playing, bit of Deathwish, is one of the better matchups against Alchemy. But anyhow, so we should probably keep playing a little bit just because we want to deny the Deathwish synergy as much as possible in round 3, and we could even thin a bit with the Vico, which probably isn't worth doing, I'd say, because we have another Vico in deck still. You don't really want to be able to brick that card, so we'll just go ahead and follow Letho's lead and do all that good stuff. We can maybe shuffle something back into his deck, like a Fog, along with our Roach, should we feel like doing that. It might be a bit risky, Vogelforce could pull it, but honestly, at this point, I think we probably have to take risks, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Yeah, really, the aim is to brick him. He probably mulliganed away the Lesser Guardian. So you're kind of hoping for him to draw one and maybe draw the Fog if he mulligans, that sort of thing. But yeah, we'll see what happens here. We'll see how it goes. He might even think about the Hero Pass. If he does, we definitely have an option to win with the Vogelfort if we get a little bit lucky. Shouldn't really need anything, just not to hit the Roach would be ideal. And yeah, we're just putting a bleed on. At this point, we're kind of hoping for the Kahir, because that's probably our only real way out of this, is getting a Kahir into Vilgefort's sort of big play with Roach coming out in the round 3. So hopefully we can make that work. Bit of a tricky one. Deathwish, gotta cause you some issues, of course. Okay, so She-Troll comes down, and that's our time to pass. We're not really going to get anything done with Vilgefort's now, even if it did catch up, which it won't, unless maybe you pull Kahir. Not really worth it, is it? So if we get Stefan, we can probably keep that because it's going to basically be Kahir. Oh, hello, dog. Hi there. What's up? How are you doing? Do you go out for a walk? I see. Oh, and there is Kahir, so that's kind of perfect. The plan worked perfectly. Hello. Hello there. Yes, how are you doing? I can't ignore the dog, guys. I'm sorry. Can't be done. He's a bit wet because he just went out into the rain for a walk. So yeah, here we're going to go with the Kahir, of course, get a Roach out, have a look at what we're pulling, and it looks like Stefan is going to happen at some point, so we may as well play that now. Get a guaranteed a Viper Witcher. Actually, I think Vico Novice is better, because we can always just ointment the Witcher, right? that we have in Graveyard. Hello, yes, I know, you're excited. Hello, good to see you. And yeah, we probably actually can put on a bit of a clinic here and take this just about. We'll, of course, Vilgefortz here and grab that Viper Witcher, which has been buffed up. Grab the ointment and res. So these are actually both 14 points, right? But whatever, we'll take Witcher for style points, killing that. And, you know, if he's got Nova or whatever, we are going to take the game just about. Dog's gone. Um, Cyclops, who cares? It's not enough points. That's really just a showcase of the power, the extraordinary power of the golds in this Nilfgaard deck. They really can, you know, save you in these kind of situations where you're a card down. Just get that round where you've got Cahir, you've got Vilgefortz, Vesemir maybe, and you're good to go. Especially if Calviet's been strengthened beforehand. So hopefully that's, you know, good example of how to play the deck, along with that slightly random Arrakis Queen deck, but Arrakis Queen game, and the dog came in, so you got to hear me, you know, talking to him. That was great. But anyway, yeah, hope you enjoyed this sort of deck guide, but not deck guide kind of, whatever. And I'll see you guys next time.